He said, take a village to raise a child. But what if the village is retarded?
What's good? What's good? This is late night. Ask me anything. This is just thought I'd just drop in and discuss some things, and then also if you got some questions on anything, kind of like free consultation. Just if you got a question, uh, just ask me anything. Not just trolling. Okay, don't troll. This ain't no troll hour. Uh, but basically, this is ask me anything. And then also, I'm just gonna talk about some things that are on my mind. Not necessarily troubling me, but it's just some things on my mind. Some current events is going on. There's some couple things on my mind. Not much, but I guess I'll get right into it. I don't know who's up. I mean, it's pretty late. I know some people are, working a night shift. Some people are truck drivers. Some people are up. I had a pretty long day. I just grinding. Not so much grinding, but I just got a system of basically what I do, and right now I'm just pretty much kind of working working self-employed, and I got a few things I got going on. I've been doing a lot of IT work lately. I'm kind of leaning more into networking, which is pretty profitable because networking is something that pretty much runs a lot of IT. A lot of IT is networking. So a lot of people, a lot of people, it's funny because a lot of people they don't really know me. People be thinking they have me figured out, and then I just, I put people in a pretzel, because they have absolutely no, they have no idea how smart I actually am. It is funny as hell when people try to figure me out. That should be interesting. Um, you know, the best way to figure me out is just basically crown me. Crown the king. Once you crown the king, you will understand me. If you don't crown me, then you won't understand me. And you know, that's just kind of how that works. you know, um, yeah, it's easier to crown me versus to figure me out. Because if you already crown me, then you gonna win. Because you're dealing with somebody, you know, highly uh on a higher level. You can't just keep going through life winning battles and not be a particular individual, not be a certain type of person, you know. A lot of people don't understand that because they just kind of don't understand, what I've been through. I mean, I haven't talked about everything. Nobody's going to talk about everything they've been through. Uh, and probably unless uh, people have typically people that have completed a higher level of success, they might disclose more because they're already on a high level. Okay, the best example of that is, it's kind of crazy, but Kanye West is a pretty good example of that right now. Kanye West has achieved a lot of success, but some people even say that he's a little bit too extreme with his basically expression, right? Or freedom of speech per se, because he's kind of just airing everybody out, right? He's airing out anybody that he thinks double crossed him in the past, is presently trying to cross him. He's just pretty much disclosing everything to the public that was supposed to be private, and it led me to kind of that saga, the saga with Kanye West. Obviously, Kanye West needs some help. Definitely needs some help. Uh, the funny thing, the tripped out thing about that is I'm a person that could actually help him, and that's the thing with people that are poor and people that are extremely wealthy and rich. They still have the same dichotomy. They don't understand. They don't understand certain people. They don't understand it, or maybe they do understand, but I don't really know what they don't know or don't or do know. People can actually help them, and you know, I guess people have trust issues, so that trying to overcome those trust issues is a barrier within itself. But yeah, I've been in situations where I've been I can understand. I'll just say I can understand Kanye West very much, very well. And it's not because we share the same quote unquote planet as far as zodiac signs. Uh, it's more that is something to do with it. I'm not going to say that that does not play a role in that, because Virgo and Gemini we do share certain traits as far as just certain traits. I'm not going to go into zodiacs, but yeah, Gemini and Virgo definitely do share a lot of traits. I will say that shoot, one of the best women I've ever been with was a Gemini, and I would mind meeting another woman that is a Gemini, because Geminis are really really awesome. I mean, Virgo women are awesome too. I'm pretty much a Virgo. In case you didn't know, Kanye West is a Gemini. But the thing is that yeah, Virgo women are pretty good. Okay, because it's kind of like in my experience with Virgo women. Okay, Virgo women are. It's almost like you're in a relationship with a sibling. That's the experience. Like it's weird, very very weird, but also you both kind of understand each other, and then at the same time you have the same desires and the same willingness to complete those desires. I mean, it's just really crazy. It's a crazy it's a crazy experience, but I mean, fortunately, I was able to experience those. I've experienced that, what I'm saying, and that's intergalactic in itself. Um, Gemini, uh, shit. I mean, that's even more. It's even more spectacular. I mean, this is spectacular. I mean, it depends on the person, obviously the person has more to do with it too, but yeah, spectacular. Top 10, top 5 for sure. For sure. But the thing is that yeah, in regards to Mercury, planet Mercury, we're in a Mercury retrograde right now as we speak. Okay. You won't hear anybody else on live streaming at this moment that is talking about what I'm talking about right now, and that knows what I know. So um yeah, we're in a Mercury retrograde. Okay. Um that's when I come around elite people, I don't feel intimidated. A lot of people I could tell, a lot of people, even my friends, they're intimidated by rich and wealthy people. I am not, because even myself, I'm not necessarily rich, right, or wealthy. I do have very small amounts of wealth, but not nothing, you know, nothing like nowhere near a wealthy or rich person, right? But my knowledge and intelligence is is very, very, very high. Okay. Very, very high. So when I'm around rich and wealthy individuals, a lot of rich and wealthy individuals, they have high levels of education, but it's paid for education a lot of times. I have self-educated myself so much that I, and also I have formal education, university and college, uh, collegiate education. So I mean, I'm basically, I'm basically like I tell my daughters I'm a wizard. That's what I tell my daughters. I say I'm a wizard. But the thing is, yeah, you still got to deal with haters, right? Trying to make ends meet, trying to kind of go up the ladder of success, right? Let's show some media, some bulletins, right? Trying to get out of the trenches, right? Trying to become a freedom fighter and move up this like hierarchy chart. This is like a class chart. Yeah, you got to deal with a lot of haters. Okay, it's a lot of people, a lot of men primarily that do not want to see you come up. They want to even, it's people that are involved with both men and women that are involved with blocking your come up. Okay. Um I've had, okay, I'll tell you a personal story. A personal story, right? I was it was when I was working at my mother's school. So basically it was a job for working in Chicago public schools. At the time I didn't have any children. And This was a pretty well paying job at that time. Very as far as notoriety, it was a very good job as far as that. Very good position to add to your resume. Just an overall totally good position. The position was an IT coordinator position for a school. Okay, basically, I was able to qualify for this position because I went to college. I had the requirements to basically qualify for this position. I actually had to go get my transcripts from college to show the Chicago Public Schools HR department my transcripts because I was already working for the Chicago Public School system as a sub, and they didn't have necessarily my college credit. When I showed them my college credit, they were shocked because they thought I was just some dumb, you know, kind of low level blue collar, just grunt. When I showed them my transcripts, they was like, "Oh, damn!" They were like shocked or whatever. I still remember that. But this job, right? It was um, a nepotism type of situation where it was people that could, like, in the Chicago public school system, in a lot of different, like, let's just say the public sector, those jobs are hired with, like, other people are able to get friends, family onto those certain positions. Now, of course, I'm not contradicting myself. My mother did help me get the position, but unlike Bronny James, I was qualified, fully qualified for that position. Like, I literally came into that school. Like, the way I did it, and I'm not, Bronny James, cool. I think he'll eventually try to figure it out. Is he either gonna sink or swim? If he's able to swim, he's gonna swim. Hopefully, usually players do excel in the NBA. It takes them, some players are late bloomers. A good example of that is Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was a late bloomer NBA player, but Jimmy Butler was very, very good. Bronny James, just, he doesn't have that background, but I do believe in miracles. But nevertheless, what I'm saying was, I wasn't that I would be like, I would say I was like King Griffey Jr. Like I was able to come in smacking the ball out the park, right? Just knocking stuff down. But before I got to all of that, it was a hater that I had to deal with. I had to deal with a hater, right? It was it was a hater that I had to deal with. It was a chick that worked in the office. She was the secretary, right? She was like the head secretary, and she also, I think she cheated on her husband, so she was technically a head secretary. But nevertheless, she was literally, what she was doing was she was trying to block the paperwork from being filed for my position. She was literally, I caught this broad literally trying to block the paperwork for me to be processed to get the position. And it's just like that. Like people can literally be directly blocking your blessings. Like that's why you should always take haters serious. Should not never not take a hater serious, right? So, this person, because they were trying to basically be petty, they got caught basically trying to literally take it on their behalf to not process the proper paperwork to the Chicago public school system so I could get hired. So you know what I did? I basically took that paperwork myself, directly faxed it and sent it to the Chicago Public Schools Human Resource Department, processed it, and I bypassed her. And I never forgot the look in her eyes. The look in her eyes when she saw what I was actually doing, and I peeped game of what she was doing. I literally like it was like a chess move. Like I circumvented her, and I basically, once I saw, I was like, like my father used to always say, he used to speak in like an African voice. Once he figures something out, and then West Africans do this, it's not just him. They be like, they say this, and it's like like it's just like I caught you, like, or I figured this out, what I'm saying. It's like once I figured it out, I gave her that look. I didn't say that. I didn't say what my I didn't say no tone like, aha, I got you, or my father's voice, and hand. Like I didn't say nothing. I just gave her a look, like, basically, you know I basically caught her in action, trying to basically block my blessing, block me from getting hired. You know what I'm saying? Like it's literally people in your life right now that's doing stuff like that. They're literally in your life trying to block your blessings. It could be friends, it could be family. In this case, this was not, friends or family. This was just a secretary at a job. It was, basically a coworker or possible coworker that was literally trying to block me. I mean, I'm talking about this was everything. Like this job that I'm talking about literally led me to get a short pension to actually start my business. If I didn't get that job at Chicago public school system, the butterfly effect of that, I don't know what would have came, because uh you know I very much remember needing that money to get certain licenses that I needed for my business. Okay, so um it was a lot of things. I mean, the money that I made, like, that was probably my first job that I started making some decent money. Like that was like my first job, like where I was like, oh, okay, you know, got benefits, got paid time off. I got a nice hourly salary. overtime. It was like my first best job. Like, then I was working with my mother. My mother was proud, you know, all of that type of stuff. So yeah, I had to actually do that. It was actually real life chess move. I had to basically process my own paperwork because basically the secretary, you know, administrative assistant, that's her job. That was what she was supposed to do. And I caught her purposely trying not to do it. I caught her.
The shit's chess, it ain't checkers.
And yeah, I brought my chessboard. I used to have to. I was a teacher as well. It was that particular position because it was just a lot of stuff that was involved dealing with kids. I had to do a lot of different jobs. I was computer teacher. I was the IT guy for the school. I was the disciplinarian, as far as after school or in school detention. I had to do quite a bit of things within that one job. But the thing is that I would have never got the damn job if I let a hater win, right? So you definitely got to deal with your haters. You know what I'm saying? And take them serious. You know, I'm not saying everybody is a hater, but I did a video. I did a good video, about haters. It was a pretty decent video. Okay. Um, I did a couple videos on haters. You know what I'm saying? You got to understand. I mean, hating is part of it's part of human competition. I do understand that. I do understand to a certain degree or another. Hating, you know, it is a form of competition. You know what I'm saying? That's what haters are. They're trying to compete. You know, that's what haters do. Yep, haters gonna hate, man. But you know what? I don't worry about that. I think I was concerned about that last year, maybe 2 years ago. I don't really worry about it, and I think the reason why I don't worry about it because primarily your main concern I think should be trying to overcome your issues, whatever your issues are. Most people's issues is financially related. So the thing is that life is competitive regardless. But one of the things I'll say is that you should focus on people that are doing about the same that you are or better. So if you focusing on a hater that's a bum, right? Let's say you focusing on a bum on the street that's a hater. Okay, that's wasted energy. Okay, that's what it's wasted energy, and it's like, why are you around this, bum? Why are you listening to this bum? Why are you, focusing in on this bum? Those are the questions that you have to ask yourself. And once you realize, that you pretty much been had, you've been paying attention, to people that really not trying to really improve your life and just really kind of just doing really you more harm than good because when you listen to haters that are bums, you're going to take on those bum traits. You're going to kind of lean into being a bum yourself. So you gotta gotta be careful. It's all right to be nice. It's all right to lean, kind of reach back and try to help somebody if they want to be helped. It's all right to give a bum $1 or two and move on about your day. But you gotta understand, a bum gonna be a bum. That's just how that's gonna be. There's nothing really you could do about it. A lot of things going on in California. The big news is Big U. Big U got caught pretty much being a high level extortioner, basically. California, I scratch my head at California a lot of times because one of the things about California is they have this thing where people talking about checking in. You gotta, not so much California, but Los Angeles. I've been to San Diego. I've never been to Los Angeles. And I don't think I've ever been anywhere where I had to check in, or I've never checked in somewhere. The only place I've checked in was a hotel. I've checked in to plenty of hotels, but I never checked in with nobody talking about I have to check in. And primarily the reason is for the most part, I stay away from I try to stay away from lower socioeconomic areas. And if I'm around areas like that, I'll make sure that I'm kind of trying to be incognito, and I'm out the door. Like a lot of times, people, you kind of have to blend in. Okay, you have to blend in into your surroundings. If you know you gotta if you depending on who you are and what you got, if you got like a lot of stuff, like if you, let's just say, you have a luxury lifestyle and you have to go and you got to go in the hood that day. Well, you might not want to drive your Rolls, damn, I can't even say it. Rolls Royce. Like you might not want to take that car. You might want to take your Chevy Impala. You know, you might want to take your Chevy Impala uh on that actual adventure. You don't want to probably take your Rolls Royce into, quote unquote hood. That's not something that you want to do. But a lot of times what people do is they they want to floss around poor people. You see that in Gary, Indiana, you see that in parts of the south side, the west side of Chicago, different parts of, different areas in the suburbs. Got people that are, trying to floss around poor people. And when you floss around poor people, poor people might target you. It's a risk of doing that. You just have to move a certain type of way. And a lot of things is, well, if you got a Rolls Royce, let's just say in Gary, Indiana, that might be, you might need your head examined. You might need to go sit on somebody's couch or something, because you got a car that's worth about 200 to $300,000. Why would you want to live in Gary, Indiana with a Rolls Royce? You better off buying a house, let's just say in Crown Point or maybe Munster, for a couple $100,000, and then maybe getting any car just about that you want, any just regular car. You better off doing that than buying a Rolls Royce and trying to drive around Gary, Indiana. It's just kind of how that works. Like, just doesn't really make sense. But people do what people do, man, and a lot of times, that's it works out the way it works out. But when it comes to California or Los Angeles, Yeah, they said Big U, the guy Big U had, basically was just in his hands. He was basically doing all kind of things, allegedly. And one of those things that he was allegedly doing was extorting celebrities, rappers, uh, athletes. Because here's the thing, right? And I talked a lot about this. I talked about class. And one of the things about people that I find tripped out, and I understand it, but I understand it from a vantage point of being older and wiser. When I was younger, I used to do the same thing. When I was younger, I used to go to like sketchy nightclubs in the hood. I used to go to bars in the hood. I used to, you know, go to parties, like really grimy ghetto parties. You know, I used to do that shit. And I guess I can't criticize, NBA players or NFL players that are young and they come from that same environment. They came from, maybe close to, or if not in a ghetto kind of environment. And then they got money all of a sudden, a lot of money, millions of dollars. They still want to go to some kind of hood clubs because of the people that they are associated with are still, you know, people from their hood. They still got friends that they brung over their best friends to, basically kick it with. And, they going to give them some money, and buy them a car maybe or whatever, give them a job, and, they going to the clubs with people that, like, okay, what's the stat, uh, the average black man makes about $40,000. The average black woman makes slightly less, like 30 something $1,000. So when you go to a hood club or you go to, let's just say, a urban club and you're a millionaire athlete, you might get robbed. And I know people personally that I grew up with got robbed with other athletes, right? I know them. They got robbed. They went to a hood club and they got robbed. Okay? And you know, you heard about it if you were older, if you were like an older millennial, Gen Xer, you heard about it. Okay. Um, and it happened in Chicago, and then and it's like, yeah, like when you're young, that's all you know. I mean, the person that I know that got robbed, I mean, they grew up in a urban environment. They grew up literally in the city. See, I grew up in the suburbs. They actually went to the suburbs when they got a little bit older, but they was already accustomed to the city. Like the city is, city is the city. Chicago is Chicago. Chicago is rough. It's parts that are not so rough, but the parts that are not so rough, ironically, are, places where it's not that many black people. Okay. It's like clubs that are mostly white clubs. Well, if you want a particular type of woman, right? Let's just say a black woman, that dates black men, they're going to be at certain clubs. And at those certain clubs, they're around people that don't really make that much, don't really have that much. And then there you go, you're getting robbed, possibly. And that's how it goes. Like, you're not mixing in with other people. Now, Diddy, this is where Diddy comes in, because Diddy, that's what he pretty much, he made private parties because he knew that these 100 octane people wanted to be around each other and they didn't want to go. You know, some people are smart enough to know, okay, I don't really want to go to a public nightclub, you know, around all of these people that might be extorting me and, you know, gangbangers, syndicates. You know, you got to understand who's at the nightclub. Gangbangers, syndicates, drug dealers, all of these types of underground people. They kind of hang out in these establishments. You know, it just goes back to the old Western days. Like it's old as apple pie, right? So it's like, yeah, he figured people wanted to have private parties, right? So he made, you know, he did what he did, okay, allegedly, right? So you know, he's fighting it out in federal lockup or federal jail, fighting his cases. I'm hearing things about a win here, a win there. I don't know. Some people saying he's pretty much cooked. I don't know. The thing is this: that world is very, very small. Even just outside of the 100 octane world, the just basically world of, let's just say, the rich and wealthy, the black rich and wealthy is very, very small. And then you got to understand the black rich and wealthy, the women of the black with rich and wealthy primarily date white men. You know, that's just reality. I'm not, you know, I mean, you know, it is what it is, right? So that's why these men, you always wonder why they get these like ratchet looking women and stuff like that, or even they get white women themselves, right? These athletes and entertainers. Well, that's because that world is pretty much mostly non-black. Okay, the wealthy and rich are mostly non-black, right? I mean, I still have to finish out my series. You know, sometimes I have to kind of look at things and look, maybe create some type of schedule or something like that. I'll try to get myself to finish that out. But yeah, the rich and wealthy are primarily non-black, right? So that's why these guys, they go out and they go to where they feel comfortable at. They feel, and then you got to understand these guys are, that's where they're from. They're from that, you know, kind of 85, 87 octane world. Now, it is some exceptions. It's exceptions, always exceptions. Okay. Like your Jalen Hurts, your Russell Wilsons that were raised in suburbia, you know, even you could put what's old boy in Golden State, Steph Curry. You could put Steph Curry in that, right? Right. I mean, his father was already an NBA player. You know, he lived primarily upper class suburban life, and he went to college and went to the NBA. Right. Met his girlfriend in college, married her. Right. So yeah, that's pretty much um kind of how that goes, right? And yeah, Big U was extorting these people. He was pretty much extorting these guys, you know, telling them they got to check in. You know, some of these guys were street guys too. They, you know, checking in, and what they say about that is checking in is basically telling someone, telling a bunch of guys basically extort me. It's like an open invitation to be extorted, you know. California is very, very competitive. I talk a lot about California. California is one of the most competitive places I've ever visited. I mean, I can just feel the competitiveness, the financial competitiveness. Um, when I was in San Diego, you know, I could just feel it. Very, very competitive. You know, so um, that was one of the things I remember. You know, this was like 2002, 2001. You know, I was in San Diego. I could definitely, you know, basically kind of see how competitive it was as far as trying to become, you know, go from like basically zero to a hero. You know, in Chicago, in the Chicagoland area, it doesn't take that much to go from zero to a hero. You know, San Diego, a little bit more. LA, a little bit more. You gotta, you know, I've showed that on my live stream plenty of times. To get $1 million home in California, in Los Angeles, you got $1 million home will give just basically you'll be living in the hood. That is just, people don't really understand that. People just like, even myself, I dismiss it. Like it's not even a thought. Like when I say this stuff and I've actually seen it, and when I think about it in my mind, I'm like, oh wow, that's crazy. You got to spend $1 million to be in a gated, like, to not so much gated, but you're to live in a part of the city of Los Angeles where you got bars on windows. It's $1 million for a house. Like you, I mean, it just utterly just, I mean, it's just it's mind boggling and mind blowing because you know, being a you know, basically a guy from the Midwest, growing up in the Midwest. I mean, fucking $1 million could have got you next door to where they filmed Home Alone. Not even could have. It could get you there now, motherfucker. I mean, that's how much $1 million is. Like you could buy a house near fucking where they film Home Alone. Like the Home Alone house. I took a picture. It was a dusty picture, I admit. I gotta go there and take another picture. But I mean, I took a picture nonetheless next to the fucking house that Home Alone was built on. I mean, where that was Home Alone was filmed in or whatever. It's in I believe it's in Winnetka. It's in Winnetka, Illinois. It's basically near where Just Pearly things live. I know she probably hates my guts when I always mention the fact that I know where she lives. And I live there myself. Very weird place to live. One of the weirdest places I've ever lived in my entire life. That place, that place is very weird. Um, it's like almost sci-fi. Uh, like it's, you would think, okay, because it is Lake County, Illinois. It's called Lake County, Illinois. Lake County, Illinois. It's not like obviously Cook County. I mean, it's the richest county in Illinois, actually. Outside of Cook County, it's basically where all of the rich people that do well in Cook County actually live, and most of the athletes, that's where they live. Like it's like just literally systematically they tell the athletes you got to live here, like, and they go live there. It's just very tripped out. Like all of the athletes, they live in Lake County. Okay. And Lake County has some of the most mansions that I've ever seen in my life. It's literally like, it literally put me, like, I was bougie, but when I went to Lake County and I lived in Lake County, I got worse. I got more bougie. And it's like you know, it just basically concentrated my bouginess. And the thing is that, yeah, those are where all of the fucking people that made all of that fucking money, the Bruce Rauner, the ex-governor, that's where he lives. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if the current governor don't have a house in Lake County, Illinois. Um, it's a pretty big, like, it's like it's almost like a it's a secret. Like people don't even know about Lake County, Illinois. It's like literally the northern suburbs of Chicago. That's literally what it is. That's what Lake County, Illinois is, and it is the richest fucking suburb in the Chicagoland area, hands down. It's between western suburbs and the northern suburbs. The northern suburbs got way more money than the western suburbs. The northern suburbs got way more money. The western suburbs is like the newest part of the Chicagoland area. The western suburbs is like new, very, very new. I'm talking the western suburbs is literally, you could just say it's like a new creation because it's like less than, when they start like building it out, it's like the newest parts of the western suburbs is only like, it's like less than 20 or 30 years old, and they still building it out. But the thing is that basically, yeah, it's the Lake County, Illinois is very, very rich. Very rich. Mind-boggling rich. It's an old money, just part of Chicago. Very old money. And it links right from the north side. You gotta think, the north side literally goes into the northern suburbs. Then you got literally, you got downtown Chicago. Then you got the north side right above it. Then you got the northern suburbs. You know what I'm saying? Like all of the money right there. Like that's where the money is, literally, right there. You know what I'm saying? And I know this. I know all this shit. Like I mean, literally, like that's how I get money. Like I just knowing where the money is, like, push come to shove, I know where to go to get money. Like, it's right there. Just drive there and get money. It's that simple. I mean, it's not that simple because you gotta find parking, but it is simple in the sense that you know, it's that's where most of the financial um commerce is in Chicago, right there. Everybody in Chicago knows this. You don't know it because you just watch whatever news channel you watch, and that gives you your world view on Chicago. And it's like I be trying to tell y'all. I even showed videos on this very app about what Chicago looks like. I was going to do a video, but I kind of got lost in translation and I didn't pull the footage off of my dash cam. So um I'll have to probably work that out some other time. I mean, I just forgot to pull the footage. And I don't think it's still on my dash cam, so that was like what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, or something like that. So yeah, that's pretty much probably erased at this point. I can tell you. I mean, basically, where I was at Burr Ridge, that's the southwest suburbs. So southwest suburbs of Chicago. It's one of the, like, it's a very upper class city in the Chicagoland area. It's like a money town, a money city. Um, I would say old money, definitely old money city, Burr Ridge, Illinois. They have houses that are like hotels, that look like hotels. The houses, some of the houses look like a hotel or a small college or high school. Like it's so big. Like me and my mother used to drive around Burr Ridge just because, like, one of the things I liked about my mother like real estate too. she used to go around looking for houses and stuff like she just that's what she used to do. She used to drive us around. We used to look at the Christmas lights and shit like that, look at mansions and stuff, and she liked that shit. Like some people, I don't know, they don't like that because I don't know why. I think that people just feel some type of way. Like that people are jealous if like they I don't know. I think people don't like the fact that somebody else already has it. They don't want to just be looking at what somebody else has. I don't know. My thing is I want to drive around where I want to live in the future. Like that's my whole thing. Like I don't look at it like, I look at it like it's cars that okay, it's certain cars that I used to want, and then I'm able to get them, another time. I've gotten brand new cars, okay, but the thing is that when it comes to houses and stuff, or even anything, if you basically window shopping is nothing bad about window shopping. Even if it takes you a while to get what you want, at least you can see it, and it's a certain level of manifestation that you can tap into when when you actually see pictures of certain things that you want. You could manifest those things, right? So the thing is that that's kind of how I look at it. I don't look at it like, oh, that's somebody else's house and no. One thing you got to realize is it's somebody that wants what you have right now. The bum on the street, the bum that's hanging out, in McDonald's, or they, hanging out on the corner, they looking at you hopping out your car. You taking your car for granted. The person that, looking at your situation, they see whatever you got that you don't really think nothing about. They actually want it. They want it probably more than you want it. They just, they just don't know how to really get it, or they can't really deal with it, whatever the case may be. They actually want that particular, you know, um thing that you have. A lot of times people take things for granted, and they don't necessarily value the things that they have, because the human mind gets bored at things. Even women, like men get bored with women, women get bored with men. Like even like persons, places, or things, people take for granted. They get bored, they get entitled. You can get the finest chick with the fattest ass, the the best titties, the best pussy. You'll eventually, the human mind gets bored. It gets bored, and it's like, oh, well, you could probably get bigger. Damn, you could get, someone younger or someone more beautiful. And it's like, it's like your mind kind of plays tricks on you a little bit. And one of those tricks is you get used to stuff, and you start taking things for granted. And women actually hate that shit too, because like that's why some women be like, sometimes pretty women, they don't want to give like a quote unquote average or ugly looking dude a chance, because they don't want to be, basically in a situation where the dude just, starts, he at first worships the ground that she walks on, and then after a while she just basically, he starts to treat her like she's just a normal regular girl, average everyday girl, and or woman. And you know in women, some women that are basically, I guess, on a higher uh level of looks and stuff, they don't like that. They don't like when men do that. They get pissed off, especially if you are in their eyes. I don't want to say inferior, but let's just say below what they normally date or deal with. They don't like that. They absolutely do not like that. And you've been there. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been there. I was young and dumb, and the rest. And I mean, definitely one of the things that will possibly happen to you if you go down that road where you start, you wanted to be a player or whatever. I mean, that's probably hard to do now. I mean, these women, these women of the 2020s. Oh my God, this shit is crazy. Coming up in the 90s, man. Women. I always say women had men jumping in the 1990s, man. Tell me what you want. That's why these dudes be acting the way they do. Like they be acting like Super Saiyan simps because these are the same dudes that was jumping for broads. I ain't gonna lie. I was jumping when Drew Hill came on, man. I was jumping, boy. I was jumping like a Maasai warrior when that song came on, man. Tell me, what I'm saying? Tell me what you want, you know. Yeah, niggas was jumping, man. Gen X niggas and baby boomers were jumping when that song came on. They was jumping for bitches. They can't tell you they weren't. I was there. So I know. I'm talking 1996, 97, 95, or whatever whenever that damn song came on, niggas was jumping. Niggas was in the club jumping. I was in high school, so I ain't start going to clubs until I was like, I actually started going to clubs early. So I started going to clubs like 96, 97. I started going to college parties in high school. I was going to Kappa parties and all that type of stuff in high school. So I was already like, you could say fast or whatever, you know, because it was the people I was hanging around, you know. But the thing is that I'm glad I was able to do that because it gave me a vantage point that I see a lot of younger guys or even guys, period, don't have and never had. It's basically being basically a what can you say? Because I'll say basically um you could just say a man that pretty much kind of ran the streets and not so much ran the streets because I wouldn't say run the streets, but definitely I would definitely say let me look up this definition. I would say probably a womanizer. I guess being a womanizer would be the definition, the correct definition. Um, it says a womanizer is a man who habitually flirts with and seduces or attempts to seduce multiple women, often engaging in short-term casual sexual relationships. Yes, yeah, yep, that is correct. That's the proper tone. Because I wasn't necessarily no player like that. Like I was a player. I was on that probably when I was in college, but you know, it was just times where that's what I was on. That was what time I was on. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, that was you know that was back then. Now, it's kind of weird because I hear all of these conversations, people talking about incels, and they're talking about guys that don't get pussy and all of that type of shit. And it's weird to me because you have nuances, and it's a lot of nuances in life, and one of those nuances is, well, what if you had a dude that was getting a whole bunch of pussy, a whole bunch of women, and they basically just changed, and they, let's just say, they even had children. They've, done everything to the max sexually that you could possibly do with a woman, and then they just did a complete stop. Like, I mean, just went from that to like, just, fell back to the point where they're not necessarily a Catholic priest or a monk, but they basically just kind of gave up the game of chasing women and being a womanizer, like basically, or trying to chase women and all that. Do you call that person still an incel? That person still can't get pussy? I mean, like, did I lose my ability to be able to get women, and all of a sudden now my rank is, being basically kind of, obviously, being more private? I'm not telling you what the fuck my sexual exploits are. I just, nah. I mean, it's no incentive. I'll just say it's no incentive for me to do so. But the thing is this, obviously Michael Jordan could probably put on a uniform and at least get 15 at 60. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, I mean, the thing is I ain't gonna toot my horn, but you know, it's a lot to learn, even still being older, but like I say, man, I done did everything you damn near could do to a woman. I really, I don't really get the whole conversation as far as like, yeah, it is certain men that they will probably fit in that category of, whatever. Especially now. I mean, I feel bad a little bit for the men that are younger now, that they're, basically the Gen Zers, the younger millennials, because they on the tail end of a situation where they were like, it's almost like they're forced to be extreme simps. Like, it's like they're forced to simp because, not all of them, but it's like a lot of them are, because they got it on both ends. They were raised a lot of times by a single mom that basically they raising simps, because they're not telling them what to look out for. They're, not really putting them up on game, and then harming them, the young boys, because they're not letting them around their father, purposely playing these games and shit. And now the father has no access to men, or hardly any access to a man, if they don't get it from their uncles or their grandfather or their brothers. Then they ain't gonna have no understanding, and then they're gonna be game goofy. And then they're gonna pedestalize women because they used to that. That's all they only have access to a woman, the mother. So they pedestalizing women. And it's like, yeah, okay, now you force this young man to be a simp, right, and pedestalize women. And then on the other hand, you basically have a situation where this young man has no choice but to deal with also the women from this same, dysfunctional household, that has this mean girl, misandrous demon spirit that, hates men, like the Dochis, and, I don't want to date. I think straight men are the worst men, or what did she say? Straight men are like the most harmful men or whatever. I don't know. Something crazy about she don't want to be around any straight men or whatever. I don't know. Some crazy that she said about straight men. But one of the things that you got to understand is that that particular type of rhetoric is from this, BLM movement thing where you got these, gay women, trying to start some Kamahigi River Collective. I got that from BGS. I've never read that book. It's basically about women forming some type of ritual, like not so much ritual, but community collective of lesbians that are, independent of men, and just all amongst themselves. And as you just go into this crazy, saga. And the thing is that you have these things that were pushed by their moms. So the women, the men are forced to be simps, and then the young girls are forced to be these mean girl feminists by their moms. So then now you have dudes that are simps that are they only have any only choice but to simp to mean girl Miss Andrews, and it's like, when I was coming up, I'm not gonna say it was fairy tales and butterflies and cookies and milk. No, I'm not saying that. It was just it was still women that were trying to fucking, they held on to some form of modern, not so much modernism, but uh I'll just say old fashioned ways where, they would try to, like, I remember being away at college and um I spit some game. I don't even speak these terms. Like, I cold approach this townie. I cold approach this townie in Champagne, and she went with a player. And she came back to my apartment, and we commenced to getting it on. And then she wants to clean up my bathroom on her own without me telling her. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, that's a true story. But yeah, like, I mean, even, that being said, like, yeah, like those were, the younger women that are now, damn, she would have to be, that young woman would have to be in her 40s now, right? You know, she was either she was either a Gen Xer or an older millennial. Okay, a very old millennial, right? So, uh, those were the women that I was, having a good time with, and that era, they still had some type of old fashioned values. They still, it was a different time, so it was a lot more, let's just say, kind of, I want to say love was in the air type of thing. Like, it wasn't, it was a lot of freaking though, because it was, the Dina Howards, Lil Kim, kind of like, came about, Foxy Brown, and it was a lot of that, kind of bump and grind, all of that type of culture. The Gen Xers and the Boomers came up with the booty up. You know, it was a it that was the, like, it was like, not not the booty up. I don't think that was Easy E, I think. I don't know if that was Easy E. I don't remember, but basically, doing the butt was the, like, yeah, like that was the fucking Boomers and the Gen Xers basically, when they did the movie Don't Be a Menace, by drinking your juice in the hood, and they were actually like having sex on the dance floor. They were making fun of the fact. See, a lot of people don't understand that. I understood that, what they were saying, what they were saying with the like they're they're having sex on the dance floor. And it's funny because they actually, like, you go on Twitter and then they actually are having sex on the dance floor. Usher, one of Usher's his songs was Making Love in the Club. Like, you gotta understand, I mean, it went from my grandparents, my great grandparents, they dancing, holding hands, all formal and shit, to, you know, late 80s, um, basically doing the butt, where you're literally on third base. You're on third base on the dance floor already. I mean, this is part of culture now. This is common, right? But you're on third base already. You're literally, and then when you go to Jamaica, it's even crazier. In Jamaica, they fucking doing all kind of shit. They gotta fucking, do it extreme. They jumping on bras, doing push-ups and shit on broads and shit on the dance floor. But the thing is like, yeah, that was where that, it went from like all, 1950s, 40s, 30s, 60s, holding hands and slow dancing, to, while I was in grammar school, and, they doing the fucking, the booty up in the, they freaking doing the butt, right? You know what I'm saying? Sex ed. Like, so the thing is that you got to understand, that's third base already. So when you go to a club and you basically getting on the back of a woman's ass and you're starting to gyrate, you're already on third base. So when I was coming up, I was already going to fucking third base in the club. That's why people be like, talking about the club and shit. And it's like, I don't know. I guess a nerd, awkward, socially awkward nerd would never probably do anything like that. People will probably be like, oh, you're going to get a sexual assault charge. That's what people's thought is. I mean, I guess young guys, because things are kind of crazy. I mean, people are still going to clubs, and definitely, things is getting hot and heavy. But the thing is that was where, kind of my generation, they start going crazy with that. It's third base now. Before you even get to the, before you take the clothes off, you're already on third base. So here's another thing, and then nobody really hardly wants to talk about this shit. I don't even hear nobody talking about this shit. Maybe probably a few people, but you gotta think about it now, because things don't usually digress, they progress, right? So the thing is so when you're doing the booty up, or you basically gyrating on the bra's ass on a club, in the club, she can feel your dick. She knows if your dick is hard or not, if it's long or big. So it's damn near a mating ritual. So she know you packing or not by how you dancing. So if you're not packing, she gonna probably just turn you off, turn you away. You know. So it's really got that to that extreme to now. Yeah, now it's, I mean, they were probably still doing that back in the day, but yeah, you could, it's you fucking in the club or outside the club. Um, it's very risky to live like that. I mean, if you know how to put a condom on quick, then maybe you'll be all right, most likely. But you gotta understand, like, shoot, some dudes, a lot of people were not even using condoms. That's why this whole HIV shit just kind of went crazy, I think. But um, and all other diseases. But you gotta understand, like that's why older guys do have the mindset where they be like, damn, you having problems with these broads, like why you can't get these broads? Because it was so easy to us. The whole idea of what I'm talking about was it was just easier to get laid back then versus now. You got these Sith Lord, Mandalorian, um, younger millennial Z's women that are, high level misandrous, and very demanding, and are basically female dominatrix, and it's like, yeah, you're this is what you're dealing with, and I'm like, damn, it's like playing a video game, and it's got harder. You on hard mode. Like, I have some empathy because I'm like, you're playing with hard mode. I was playing fucking Nintendo. It wasn't no hard mode. It was just only easy mode. It was regular mode. It wasn't no you could switch it to hard mode. You know what I'm saying? So, I do understand. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I have a hard time too. Like, these bras they be acting crazy. Like, you try to talk to them in public and shit, they be saying all kind of slick shit. So, and then you get older, you're like, I mean, some dudes talk to younger women. I don't talk to younger women like that. A lot of times you gotta understand, a younger woman looks at you like a grandpa. You're trying, you're 40 some years old trying to talk to a woman that's 22. You're her grandpa or her dad. And it's like, that's how they look at it. And you got to understand, if you older, that's how the fuck they look at that shit, you know? And it's not, you got to move different when you older. A lot of dudes don't want to believe that, but you gotta kind of move a certain way. You can't look at it, if you want to be the old dude in the club, that's what you're gonna be. Like, I'm talking about, like, you in a younger club, a nightclub with younger people, and you the old nigga in the club. And you start to realize you're that dude. And it's like having a clown. It's like an old nigga in a club is like a clown in a nightclub. You you might as well have a clown. you might as well you might as well have a clown outfit with everything, nose and everything, because that's how the bitches look at you, and that's how you look in a club. Okay, a nightclub with young people. I'm not talking about like a mature. They do have mature nightclubs, but that's why old dudes go to bars. Like, you got to be a bar nigga for the rest of your life. That's the thing. That's the play. Like, you just got to be a bar dude. You can't go to no more nightclubs. You're gonna be a clown. Yeah, it's the stand up hour. This is open. This is open mic night, and I'm flaming it. But yeah, like, yeah, you a clown after a certain period, and that's why it's kind of like dudes had the same problem. I said this before many a times. I'll say it again. Dudes missed out on they motherfucking Jet Queen Beauty of the Week, when they were in college running through bras, in high school running through bras, and then you get old and crusty, and then you got the same problem, or you have the same effect that the broad that is 35, 40 plus, that ain't got no husband, or they ain't got nobody. They got the same thing. They was going through dudes. They thought the grass was always greener. They was the bad bitch, and they couldn't be told anything, and they was shitting on these bitches. And then you get older, and then you realize, oh, dude one, dude two, dude three that proposed to you, and you said no, or you laughed it off with your friends. Well, you looking on Facebook, he got some beautiful kids and he got a nice, beautiful family, and your ass is got a ass. You got a BBL. You know, you got a BBL. Yeah. What Vivica Fox got a BBL at 6 years. This is, man, the popcorn. You know what? I probably, man, I gotta start looking at the popcorn makers and see what their stock is looking like, because this is like popcorn season, boy. Man, this is, but I can't eat enough popcorn, man. I got kernels popping out me. I mean, this shit is crazy. Every day I gotta pull in the gas station, man, and get some more popcorn because I'm fucking running out of popcorn. This shit is crazy as hell. I think I had two chicks looking at me, listening to me, because I this shit, I probably offended their ass. Come back. Why are you running? Why are you running? I gotta get that meme. I gotta put that meme on my shit, man. Why are you running? Why are you running? Oh man, I got a cold. My African accent, man, is top tier, buddy. I'm only that is part of myself, part of who I am. Sometimes I forget that I'm African as well. I forget that I'm African. Sometimes I forget that shit, and then I have an African wake up call. uh-huh, uh-huh. What the fuck? What the fuck, motherfucker? What do you want, motherfucker? So yeah, BBLs is 60 years old. Yeah, it gets goofy, man. It get you start, man. You gotta realize you're a clown. The delusional person doesn't realize that they're a clown. Like once you realize you're a clown, if you do certain things, you just don't be a clown. You know what I'm saying? That's just how that works. Just don't be a clown. Being that old nigga in a young club, you're a clown. Being that old nigga, Jim Jones got clown for, dressing like a YN. And Jim Jones is older than me, okay? Dressing like a YN. Sometimes you gotta retire. You, you retire. Gang bangers can retire, man. If you're a gangbanger, or if you a hood, if thugs can retire, right? I believe thugs can retire. Maybe we should we should have a retirement party for ex thugs. Have a retirement party. You know, and seeing 90s thug songs, 90s thug songs for retirement. We could play this one's for my homies. See you when I get there. Just have a thug retirement party. And then at the end you get a Kevin Samuels suit and some Stacey Adams, and then you gotta burn all of your high school clothing that you wear every day. Oh my God. Oh, I know y'all. I know I'm cracking y'all up. Even on the playback, I know I'm cracking y'all up. I know I'm funny. I already know I'm funny. Uh, yeah, pretty much you get you a Kevin Samuels suit, belt and all, and you get some Stacey Adams, and then you got to throw all them damn goddamn little boy outfits away. Man, you got to throw gotta throw all of them little boy outfits away, boy. You gotta grow up. Take them chains and then melt them down and make bracelets and rings. You could be the old nigga with about 5 rings. You know, you ever seen an old nigga, old motherfucker with like they got their whole hands full of rings. them ain't nothing but brass knuckles in case he get a fight. Get an old Don ass nigga, the last Don Negro. He got about 5. He got rings on all all his fingers. But you gotta understand this archetype of black man. I've seen this man. He is a rich man. Okay, this is a rich man. This is Mr. Biggs. You know, this is a Mr. Biggs type of guy. He knows, you know, he's not gonna be in a club, he's gonna be in a bar. He got a he got a he got a fistful of rings. They all real too. You could do your diamond. You could bring your diamond tester. They all real. They all real. And he got a whole handful of them. And in case he get in a fight, he gonna knock your ass out. He gonna knock you out, boy. You know, I don't. He's only 75, but he can knock your ass out with them rings. You know. But yeah, you know, he's a rich man. He's got probably he's got a 1998 Cadillac Eldorado or Broham long boat, just a boat, you know. And then in the summertime he wears a captain's hat. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I know, I know these guys, man. These guys, the ones that, yeah, they gonna buy your merchandise, man, at the flea market or whatever, you know. They gonna buy you, give you a shout out. They gonna look out for you because they not haters, man. They got old and they understood the game, right? You know, I can't, I'm gonna look, tripped out, but I ain't gonna be looking like no young dude. Like I'm not gonna dress like I'm going to homeroom. You know, I'm not dressed like I'm skipping second period. You know what I'm saying. Kevin Samuels talked a lot about that. He got a lot of flack. He got a lot of flack. But I mean, I gotta do a show about Kevin Samuels. Another show, but the thing is, yeah, he got a lot of flack because he was telling niggas to get a suit, man. Wear you some wear you some suits, get you some, casual clothes, dress better, you know, smell better, you know what I'm saying? Look better. He was a, image consultant, like he said. Like, a lot of dudes, man, do need image consultants, man. Like people don't both women and men, they need image consultants. A lot of what people do because they going through shit, they just give up. And I know that give up look. I've been there, right? That give up look. Like, I don't want to, compete. I don't want to try to, wear any clothes. I don't want to buy no new clothes. I just want to look like a normie. Just look like, basically I'm going to volunteer at the homeless shelter. I know that look, and I know people that have that look. They're not really trying. They don't give a fuck. Like, you got women that you got a lot of women that dress like that. A lot of women, I would say, once they get older, they start giving up. And even you see young women, they just be giving up because for whatever reason, they just gave up. And they need a makeover, right? They need some type of makeover. They need somebody to teach them how to do, how to dress and all of that. And really what it is yeah, they need somebody to just it's just so much it's so much like need is just ridiculous. It's like, and one of the things that you got to understand, it's both men and women that don't need none of that shit, and they already doing it. They already winning. They already out there. They already competing. And then you got people that just they don't even want to compete. They just gave up. I mean, I know you have people have times where they going through stuff. I mean, I understand that. I know where that is. I get that, but you got to understand. I mean, it's a competitive world, and you know you the way you look is a representation of who you are. Your uniform is everything. People will judge you off of that. And it's like it is a big deal. People don't think it's a big deal, and a lot of times people don't think a lot of things are a big deal. People didn't think Bitcoin was a big deal, but it was a big deal. You know, come to find out, it was actually a big deal, right? So yeah, I mean, everything pretty much matters, right? You know, Lauryn Hill had his song "Nothing Really Matters," but really, to be honest, obviously, if she thought like that, she was going through stuff, and then that was part of the reason why she probably owed taxes. You know, that's where the hit the symbol. That's where that goes, right? That's probably why she owed taxes, because she probably really thought that nothing really matters. Yeah, you know, but apparently it does matter if you filed your taxes or not.
Message.
But yeah, it's it is that thing, man. The dating market, it's a tripped out situation for, I think, a lot of different men. I mean, obviously, uh, you know, you have the passport movement, or the travel movement, the expat movement, and people are even just leaving the country because they just, wide variety of things, right? It's people that, they have whole channels where people just move to a wholly different part of the world. They moved out of the United States, and they found a way to survive and thrive, right, wherever they are, in a foreign land, right? And it's a situation where, like I said, you got this kind of mix up. And I mean, like I said, I come from the generation of men that, I guess the women, to a certain degree enough, they were worthy of being, they were worthy of guys to jump for them. you know mean, they were just that was how worthy they were. I mean, cats was jumping like Maasai warriors. So and it's like now. I mean, dudes ain't jumping, and they ain't got no reason to jump. It's like damn. They ain't even got to jump. They just they jump into their cash app to pay the DM fee. It's a crazy world, right? I mean, I ain't have all that crazy crap. This is you know this is what this is what I had to deal with. I just had to jump. Wait, hold on. I gotta. I mean, that was definitely the simp song era. I mean, it was a simp song, but I mean, I'm just saying, man, it was at least, man. I mean, it was something to jump to, man. I mean, it was something to jump to, man. It was a good time, man. I mean, you know, it was a golden era, man. But yeah, it's rough now, man. It's rough, but then it's like it's just kind of crazy too. I mean, cause it's almost like I mean, this is we're in a technocracy. We're in a technocracy, and in that technocracy, it's like it's actually kind of really easier to get laid using technology. I'm a technologist, and I do use technology to my advantage. Now, I mean, I ain't gonna lie, like, I mean, it's getting a little complicated a little bit, but I mean, really, to be honest, that's what people are using. You just think about it, right? I just thought about this, right? So people are doing live streaming, right? Your young guys are doing live streams. The top guys that just literally have live streams. Literally they're using technology to get women, right? They got live streams, right? They're a Twitch streamer. They're like, Kai Sanat, was the Shay Frost, what's the other dudes? I forget. I don't know all of these guys, but these guys are basically using technology to get laid. Okay, they're using you know basically live streams and chats, and popularity to get laid. Like so, that's technology at work. Nobody says that they're nerds or they're yeah, like nerds or anything, but they are. They actually are nerds. It's being a nerd or being a geek is not necessarily a bad thing. And the thing is that yeah, they're using technology basically to get laid. I mean, it's not, you probably don't look at it like that, but that's what they're doing. I mean, you could even say OnlyFans is basically a tech it's an app. It's a platform. It's written in whatever code that it's written on, but it's a website. It's an actual platform. Technology. We're in a technocracy. That's what we're in. And I ain't gonna lie. I've used technology so many times. Like it's almost like my go-to. Like I really don't. I don't even really. I don't know. Like I mean, I still talk to women as far as the traditional way, but to be honest, I do like kind of really talking or meeting different women on the internet. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't, you know what I'm saying? I'm not even gonna lie to you. You know what I'm saying? Like it just is what it is. Like that's what I'm actually used to. Like I'm very used to, you know,
Stop the cap.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I mean, I probably I hold on to technology like a young dude holds on to a gun because he can't hardly fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna hold you. Like, I literally, I literally, I and this is why it's kind of like it's kind of tripped out because on one end, it was like a thing where the date apps and online stuff was like kind of popping, and it's like it's leaning back towards kind of the traditional model of meeting women on the street or the library or whatever. And it was always like that, right? But the thing is that yeah, the dating apps suck now. I don't know what dating app to, you know what I'm saying? All of them, I mean, they not really, you know what I'm saying? And not really, working like that. Like chicks got bored with dating apps. You know what I'm saying? It seems like, so other things do work, that I mentioned before. But yeah, the whole online thing is kind of getting a little bit more complicated, right? So then what you got to do? You got to, you got to go offline. That's where you got to go. I mean, I would say a younger person again, that's what they used to. They used to meet women online, offline. They probably, don't really like or don't even know how to even talk to women. Like what is a person that was born in 2000? What do they know anything about cold approaching women or talking to women on the street? Like from the time they were born, the communication was primarily being shifted to basically phones, smartphones, and laptops, tablets, and computers. Literally, online communication. So those people are very, very, basically that's kind of why they're socially awkward a little bit, or they act weird. The Z's, right? Because they're born in a time where it was always the internet. The internet was already always around them. The communication was possible, through the internet, and that was what they were really born into. I wasn't being a Gen Xer. I wasn't born in no internet. It wasn't no internet when I was born. They were still using fucking like I know how to. I know how to use a rotary phone. That's how old I am. So yeah, I mean, it was pay phones, around, and you would go at a pay phone and put a quarter in and make a phone call. Like that was what I came up in. It was no internet. In order to play a video game, you had to blow into a cartridge if the shit didn't work. Wasn't no online patches. There's no online updates or patches. You had to blow in the fucking cartridge and hope that motherfucker worked. So yeah, they have it. They have a different perspective. I mean, they less social. They was brought up in the house, and being basically sheltered, because the outside world was so creepy and scary, and you know, just all the stuff that millennials and Gen Xers were fearful of, and the things that they had to deal with. They decided we not even gonna let our kids outside. We just gonna let them have social interactions while we're around them. We're not gonna even let them outside. So now you got kids that grew up with social awkwardness because they were not outside around strangers by themselves, dealing with life, going on adventures, trying to survive on their own. They were just pretty much sheltered. They were all constantly around their parents. That's why you hear certain things like, I'm hearing kids or young Z's going on interviews with their parents, in the job interview. I swear to God. I know you heard this shit before too. So it's like, yeah, this is that world, good or bad. That may be good. I don't think that it's a bad thing, in the sense of, you think of it like this, right? It was a lot of crazy shit going on outside. I mean, I was outside, okay? I was out riding bikes, going to different cities, riding bikes 10 miles away. I was out there like the Goonies. That was me. Like, that was my everyday experience. They just did that shit for one day. I did that shit every day. Every day was a Goonies quest. Me, my friends, and our bikes. And then sometimes, quite a few times, my bike got stolen from me. One dude was older, and he lived in the neighborhood, and he stole my bike. And then I never forgot my mom's friend, my neighbor, that the son her son pretty much grew up with. He went on to play in the NFL. She knew the guy that stole my bike. One of the guy, like, and then they found out the dude stole my bike, and then it was just this, there's a whole bunch of things happened. And I'm pretty sure that dude probably got two-pieced after that. His fate was not his fate was not good after that. Because I remember, like, all of a sudden I ain't see that dude no more. I don't know. You know, I think he was living with his parents or living with his sister or something like that. He was just like a bum in the neighborhood in Dalton, you know, and yeah, like, it's just stuff like that I had to deal with, it built a lot of character, right? A lot of character. And I don't have problems talking to strangers. One of the, if the takeaway is that I don't have a problem talking to strangers. Do I talk to strangers a lot? Do I like to talk to strangers? No. I mean, do I, like talking to women that are strangers? Yeah, sometimes. Do I have a fear of rejection? Yeah, I do. I do have a fear of rejection. I don't like to be rejected. Or even worse, you know. I don't even want to talk about the worst, because it's some awkward ass rejections you can have. It's very, very awkward, especially these young chicks now. Oh my God, they, oh man. I mean, it's a good thing because it works out. I'll just say it works out. But yeah, it's these things are something that you got to overcome. But it's to a certain extent. You know, it's certain things you don't really have to worry about to a certain extent because a lot of things are easy. It's not hard. Whenever you think or talk about something and you just describe it as being hard, a lot of times it's because you just don't know how to make it easy. Like it's really a lot of things are easy. Now, I would say about women, even the women in America, it's easy. It's an easy mode to everything if you figure it out. Now, I'll tell you how you can figure it out. I've already said it. It's a couple of things. Okay, the free game or the free advice or whatever is that it's a combination of where you're located and it's just how you look, your dress, your actual clothing, your style of clothing, your accessories, how you smell, how you look, as far as is your hair cut, is your hair lined up, is your if you have some type of like braids or something, is it um twisted up right or together, you know uh how do you talk, your mannerisms, because if you talk, like a lot of times what people know this but they probably don't really know it. If you talk a certain way, you're going to be pigeonholed into being with certain types of women. Because like if you don't know how to talk, like if you talk like you're a 40-year-old YN, or if you I don't know, like it's certain people you just don't know how to communicate well. And unfortunately, if you don't know how to communicate well, that puts you in a situation where you have to deal with a certain caliber of women. And those caliber of women, unfortunately, are lower class women. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm not the first person to have said this. It's a lot of your dating coaches, your famous dating coaches like Alan Roger Curry, they said this. Ron Will said this. How you communicate pretty much determines even your social class, because it's certain people that communicate well and they have a lower social class. They could possibly fit into a higher class or even conduct business with people in a higher class because they know how to communicate. They can communicate well. And it's like it's you can reach down no problem if you're already high up, right? It's like basically what I'm saying is, if you know how to communicate, you can communicate with the lower class people, and you could communicate with the higher class people. But if you only know how to communicate with lower class people, you won't be able to reach the higher class people. And that's why, I think that, you know what, I have to say, I kind of have to talk about hate again and getting hated on. That's one of the things. And a lot of times I forget this. That's one of the reasons I also get hated on. One of the reasons I get hated on, because yes, I am a high class dude. I do communicate well. I am college educated. I am university educated. So I should know how to communicate, right? And one of the things you got to understand, it's a lot of guys that they may have not been educated well. My mom was a teacher for over 30 years. She was she was a special education teacher. That means you have to go back to school and get a certain certification. Well, at least in Chicago you did. You had to have a certification to be a special education teacher. It's kind of like, if you go be a doctor, you got to go back to school briefly to be a surgeon. You won't just be a doctor and then they just let you be a surgeon. You have to go to school to be a surgeon, and basically become board certified to be a surgeon. In case you didn't know that. But the thing is that, yeah, like, I mean, yeah, I know how to talk, like, I know how to communicate. You know, you can't really, like I said, the way you communicate determines a lot. Even where you're gonna work, where you going to work. This is why. See, this is why women they don't want to date blue collar dudes. That's one of the reasons. Also, certain women, they don't want to date blue collar men, because a lot of blue collar men is kind of like what I just said. They can't necessarily code switch, because if you don't have the code, how can you code switch? Communication is like, it's like a language. It's like, you know if you don't have the code of communication, right? If you, like, for example, I went to school for programming. Basically, that was my last major. Like, that was, I was supposed to graduate, and get a degree in programming, right? Basically software development, right? You have to know, at that time I was going to school, I was learning basically C++ and .NET. So that's an actual language. Once you know how to know that language, you can write the actual code, right? Well, if you don't know the fucking language, you can't write the code, right? So it's like, that's women are not dumb. That's why they're not into blue collar men, because a lot of times blue collar men, they're not well read, they're not well researched. As far as, typically, you have outliers to almost everything, but most blue collar men, they're just machinery focused, engineering focused. They're reading blueprints. They're smart dudes, but they're reading blueprints, they're reading diagrams, they're doing mechanical functions, they're using tools. I'm a blue collar dude, but I'm also a white collar dude. I've done both. I've done white collar, and then I also done blue collar. So the thing is that one of the things about a lot of blue collar men, they ain't white collar. They are just blue collar. And there's nothing wrong with that. But see, you gotta understand that white collar office world, corporate world, it is another world within itself, right? And to fit into that world, it is a lot of things that you gotta have to learn and know to fit into that world. And the thing is that a lot of the women, they don't necessarily want to deal. Because see, this is the thing. What I heard before, I was listening to It Might Be Risky, and they were talking about it was a guy. He was actually from Chicago. He was like, I don't want to have to argue with these women and all of this other stuff. And it's like, it's not necessarily an argument or want to have to dialogue. He's just kind of like basically was saying he want to get straight into it. This is kind of how I thought about it, and I kind of recognized it was like, these guys are just basically kind of like the knights. They're the night. These guys, they was having a knights round table. Well, it's a difference between a king and a knight. A knight is basically kind of a blue collar soldier that is supposed to fight, right? And is supposed to protect the kingdom. Some kings, some knights have, converted into kings, and kings, when they're princes, they learn to be knights, right? And then they, so they can fight and protect the kingdom, right? And then they become king, right? They get taught by the greatest knight in the kingdom, right? So the thing is that when it comes to a queen, right? Queen typically is smart. She's smarter than some kings, right? Some of the greatest queens that walked the earth that have been, just as smart, if not some smarter than even the smartest men. They've been trained. Their fathers had them go to school and learn and you know to be a queen, right? Look at the Queen of England, right? You ever saw the Netflix series? I think it's called The Queen. I'm not sure, but the thing is that they're well educated. They're trained to be very highly intelligent and educated, right? So it's like when you're blue collar, or you're kind of like you don't want to really have any intelligent um dialogue with the woman or anybody else or whatever. Well, let's just say a woman, it's like basically she knows she could walk all over you because she's smarter than you. So if you can't have any intelligent conversation with a smart woman, she knows that she has an advantage over you because you're dumb. Okay, it's that simple. You don't want to join any panels and tell people that they're dumb. That's why I didn't join the panel or every, because it's like the thing is you know that's what it is. Like a lot of dudes are dumb, and they can't have a conversation with certain women because certain women are more intelligent than them, and they know they're more intelligent. It's kind of hard for them to even be with men because they have to kind of play dumb to a certain extent. And yeah, like a lot of times I forget, this is also one of the reasons why I get a lot of pushback and I get a lot of hatred, because I forget that fact. The fact that, yeah, I am smart. I could pretty much, I could pretty much tap dance on most people's heads, because people just not competitive when it comes to learning and researching, you know, and trying to, you know, try to learn as much as they possibly can. Now, a lot of these things, like, it comes to me naturally. It comes to me, you could even say astrologically. But the thing is that, yeah, I forget that's the major thing about me, that yeah, I get a lot of pushback, I get a lot of hate, I get a lot of, you know I go to a job, and it's people that be trying to pigeonhole me because I'm particularly African American. They have some type of superior complex. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm very intelligent, and I know how to play that game too. And before, I used to have issues playing that game. Mainly, it depends. Like, if it's a job role, then I might play that game. I might go along with that game because the thing is that you know, I'm also went to school to be a social worker, so I can get in people's heads, man, and tap dance some people's heads too. Like I can go along with kind of like basically what I'm saying is I can go along with crazy shit and then kind of like do some wizardry with people, it's like I can kind of go along with shit, man. I don't know, man. It's kind of people understand me. I'm not. I'm certain people they understand me, but yeah, I'll go along with it. To a certain extent. Like now that game could be dangerous depending on what you're doing. If you're like a air traffic controller or you're some I don't know, just anything that involves things that are dangerous, right? You don't want to play that game, but yeah, working in the office, you could, play along so you can get a paycheck. That's just put on an act, put on an Oscar level performance, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's kind of crazy, because you got to come home and then you got to. It's nobody to say and cut, take five. So you stuck into this act, right? You come home and you have to you know, relax and then, decompress and take off your mask, right? And then tell yourself, and cut, take five. you know, have that inside your head as soon as you hit the door. Cut, take five. Right, because theater. A lot of this shit is theater. Kind of playing a big ass thing of theater, right? Pretending shit. It's like you could do certain things, but you kind of like you suppress a lot of things, you know, because you don't want any confrontation or anything like that. You play dumb, you play coy and all this type of shit. It's like to be honest, like this is like kind of something I wanted to say on TikTok. A lot of times guys they'll have a low tone or a low voice and they don't want they're just just have a low tone of voice and then both men and women they'll think that this person is basically a victim, a mark, right? And it's like, do you know some of the most serial killer crazy individuals had that same some serial killers talk like almost like children, you know. I mean, maniac psychos. And it's like, it's like people, a lot of times they just, kind of they think so one dimensional. They're like, oh, well, you gotta be aggressive. You gotta talk like this. What I need and it's like if you don't behave a certain way, people are so narrow minded. They just kind of think a certain way. Now, don't get me wrong. Women, a lot of times, women have a high. They have very high senses. A lot of women they're very sensitive to certain and they have to be to survive. They're very sensitive to emotions. Women tend to have a more of a higher I would say a lot of women have more of a higher emotional intelligence, okay? And they're able to pick up on certain things intuitively. So I would say that women have a higher intuition, possibly in theory. I think theoretically, in my own personal opinion, I think that women have a higher level of intuition and also uh emotional intelligence for sure. Now, I think that these things are true because for women to be able to survive and also take care of babies and children, right? They have to kind of have these things, right? So with that said, a lot of women can pick up on the crazy ones, right? I don't remember who told me that. I think I was working in a school, and a guy was saying that he was like, "Yeah, the teachers can pick up the crazy ones, because they got the higher intuitiveness and emotional intelligence, so they can kind of pick up who's kind of awkward or whatever." And yeah, women can pick up certain things, right? I mean, I'll just say that. And they don't, those women are smart, and they don't fall for that, because you know a lot of times, that's just kind of how I think women kind of drop the ball, as far as, they don't really know. Like, they think the nerdy guy that is quiet and reserved is not tough. And it's like, dude, do you not fucking watch Cold Case Files? Do you not watch, like, I mean, like, cuz see, what it is a lot of times this is what it is. I mean, for the most part, I'll just speak from a black woman's perspective. Black women think that all men should be thugs, right? Because they're brainwashed to do so from rap music and entertainment, right? 50 Cent shows, and Power Book, and all of this power. Every show is a gangster and a thug, right? That is a millionaire, right? So that's part of the propaganda, right? So the thing is that because they're brainwashed, and women are very impressionable, and they, even if you told them they're brainwashed because they don't like being told any reality, because it breaks the delusion, and they get offended and all that shit. So it's like, yeah, like, they're brainwashed to drive that narrative home. And that appeal is also solidified because they've had sex with these men, right? They've had babies with these men. They have sexual experiences from these men, so they think, okay, all men, if they're not this way, they're inferior, right? So it's like, yeah, that plays out how it plays out. But the thing is that, yeah, that's quite a bit of women, right? That's a lot of women, and a lot of women unfortunately have been brainwashed. And um that's part of why the women are how they are. Because you just gotta imagine it's like on some, like, Matrix type level shit, right? So imagine the Matrix, right? The movie The Matrix, but biblically speaking. So imagine you got a whole bunch of women that's just eating apples in the Garden of Eden, getting tricked by the devil. And that's why you have in a situation you're in. So many women have been brainwashed, like the story in the Bible with Eve in the garden, because they're impressionable. Men are typically smarter than women. I do believe that. Women probably don't really believe that, but I do believe men are not all men, but I think for the most part, men are smarter than women. I think that women probably peak as far as their intelligence in grammar school, and then they kind of scales down over time. But I mean, obviously, it's a lot of exceptions, right? And also, men have a higher logical intelligence, right, than women, because women kind of get tapped up. They get trapped into, you know, their emotions, and then their intuitiveness, and all of that, their gut feelings and all of that. So that the logic side of it kind of gets crossed, or gets kind of put suppressed or whatever, or put somewhere else or whatever, departmentalized or whatever a certain way. So it's like, yeah, you got to understand also the thing is it's like also a secret too. I guess it could be a secret, right? But women use their emotional intelligence to actually manipulate men, right? Women use their emotional intelligence to manipulate men's logic. They use that emotional intelligence to their advantage, because emotionalism does override basically your logic, right? Because you're not emotionally intelligent to understand that this woman is faking and putting on some type of script. So she uses her emotional intelligence to basically undermine your lack of emotional intelligence, and then basically weakens your logic. You know, this is the woman that constantly, basically, to give you an example, this is the woman is crying every time she messes up and then begs you to come back. That's what I'm saying. Like, she literally is playing a game, and you don't even know, you can't even catch it, or that she's playing it, but you can't get out of it. Like, it's like you're really dealing with a psychopath at that point. To be perfectly honest, if you're listening to this now or in the future, you're dealing with a fucking sociopath at that point. I would, really try to figure out your way out of that situation as fast as you possibly can, because yes, that's what you're dealing with at that point. And yeah, um women actually do this though, and they are sociopaths, but maybe if you can basically understand what they're doing, and find a way out of it unscathed, you know figure out a way to get out of it unscathed, and basically move on. That's that. Because the thing is like, that's the thing, the whole crying, begging you back, trying to do whatever it takes to get you back. That's the whole game, right? That's what they do. That's what certain women like this do. Like, they're using their emotional intelligence on you, and you don't even know this shit. Like, I'm giving you this shit for free. I ain't getting no ads. I ain't getting no book sales off of this shit. I'm not getting no donations. I'm not getting nothing. I'm just giving you, basically what I know, basically. And it's just like that. And I know the thing is this though, right? One of the things about when you give things away for free, and it's fine. I actually enjoy it. Like, I don't mind if somebody does not listen to me. I it's a crazy world. You know, I don't care if nobody believes me or listens to me. I just, like I say, when I when I hear about something or whatever, and I know you probably listen to me, or I know you have crossed my path and I've said something to you, and you don't do it. I mean, it is what it is. One of the things I will be certain of, when you come back if you survive whatever you went through, and you come back in my presence, or you come, listen to me or whatever again, you will have a deep, profound respect for me, because you'll know that I told you before it even happened, and I told you the best route to take, and you didn't take it. So, that's just how that works. Because it's like, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of things I didn't even hear. I didn't hear anybody tell me, YouTube wasn't around, until what it started getting popular in what 2007, 2008. It's like it's and then it's certain people that are around or whatever, and I didn't know who they were, and it just wasn't accessible, or I didn't a lot of people didn't even know this world existed, where men was giving advice off of past experiences, and kind of telling men how to navigate this whole dating and mating market and what could possibly happen and all this stuff. Like it wasn't around like that. Like, so a lot of the guys back then, they were doing the same thing. They weren't making no money. It was a dude who used to go. He was in the UK. He was called Thug Titian. He wasn't making no money as far as I know of. He was just speaking. I probably was making more money off of the internet than Thug Titian. I mean, I don't know what he did. I mean, but he wasn't necessarily making no money. He was just doing it for the pure love in the game, and he was pretty popular. Like, he basically coined a couple terms. He coined the term pussy beggar and mangina. I think he was like one of the first people that came up with that. Like, I mean, pussy beggars are obvious. I mean, those are like simps. And manginas are high level simps. You know, Basically they're super simps because they damn near they call manginas because they damn near want a vagina. They damn near, these are like the white knight men that they do everything for women no matter what. Like, these the dudes that want to pick women up from the airport and they don't even want no pussy from them. Like, they're extreme. They're like male. These are the guys that call themselves male feminist. Those are those types. I'm not talking about jokingly. I'm not talking about like Kevin Samuels or any. I'm talking about like they're actual male feminists. I mean, like they are card carrying male feminists. Like those types, right? So, yeah, he was doing it for the pure love of the game. Like, you know, he was. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't really, you know, trying to do, like, I don't remember him ever asking for a donation, or it wasn't even no way to give nobody no donation back then. So I don't even know, like, what I'm saying, how that worked. But yeah, it was just, guys putting people up on game, like on what could actually happen and all of this type of stuff. But the thing is that it's not that difficult, you know. It's just, you just kind of have to, like I said, I mean, it probably is not that much quality as far as women. I mean, the quality aspect of women, like prime women, I don't know how many prime women there are, right? I don't know, and there are some. And the thing is that, like I say, I mean, what another thing a person don't really understand is that you do need to just think about the fact that you probably need to get your passport. It really ain't no other way around. I don't even give a fuck. It's not even about women. Pretty much, you need your passport. Period. Like, if you wanted to really be an elite man or woman, you need a passport, because basically, if you don't have a passport, this is just in general. If you don't really have a passport, right, you really saying I'm just gonna be landlocked to this country and I'm okay with it. And a lot of men aren't okay with that. A lot of people are okay with that idea or that reality. Okay, this is one of the best countries to be landlocked, I guess, to a certain extent. Not in the sense of like what I'm talking about, but it's one of the most well-to-do countries in the world, right? But the thing is that yeah, having a passport, it is some elite level type stuff. It's not that big of a deal, but it is kind of puts you in an elite status. And you got to think about it. The whole world, it's just all kinds of stuff, like just birds and animals and shit you ain't never seen, and geography and oceans and islands and all. I mean, it's just the whole world, man. Is just it's so much different things. Like it's so many places that you could possibly go. Like you're very limited. You're not, and you only have so much life to live. Like it's so many places that you can go. You're not gonna be able to go to them in your lifetime. Like it just those. I'm just talking about places. I'm not talking about people. Like the actual places that you can go. I mean, these things actually change your worldview too. Because soon as you start traveling, because I was already traveling, I was in the military, so I've traveled already. But when you actually really start, traveling, like it really changed your worldview. Like you look at people totally different. Like I've been to the DR. It's kind of rough, but then you come back home and you like you talk to police a little bit different. You have a different perspective, different because you've been different place. Like been to a whole nother place. Like when the police be acting crazy and shit. When people acting crazy or whatever. They weird. They on some weirdo shit. So you just have a different worldview, man. Your worldview kind of changes, and then your perspective on life changes because you just know it's not another place. Like I mean, it's another place. Somebody that their worldview is Queens, New York, and they really only be really around Queens, New York. That's their worldview, Queens, New York. Someone that ain't never left Chicago, that's all they know is Chicago. They don't know anything about Seattle. They don't know about, Florida. They don't know about um, Pennsylvania. They don't know about Virginia, the DC area, Texas. They just know Chicago. That's all they know. And it's a limited worldview. When you get to the women, I mean, obviously, I mean, oh, well, okay, I'll just get up, get. I could, I know a dude. I said this many times. I know a dude. I still know him. He travels like 3 times a year. Sometimes more, and that's his life. He don't even like. It was a thing where we had conversations before. You know, he don't even really take women in America serious like that. Like he dates women in America, but he just looking for his next opportunity to travel. Like, I mean, that's kind of a sad existence to be honest, but it's some guys that they just basically wait to travel. I mean, you gotta understand, you might not look at it like, damn, why you gotta go through all of that type of shit. But and it's like this dude ain't necessarily no ugly dude or nothing like that, as far as in my opinion. I mean, pause, but I mean it's like, you know, it's certain places. It's just really, to be honest, it's about where you live. Like, and It's just certain places. It's just not.
Pause.
It's just not conducive, man. It's like I really think that. I mean, I think he was taking care of his mom and dad or something. But I think it's like you gotta just, if you can. I mean, I think he got kids too, but yeah, so it would he could do that, but sometimes you just gotta move to Atlanta. You just gotta try it out. Move to Atlanta, move to Houston, move to North Carolina, and then just see how your dating life or your perspective change. And it's like, I know for a fact those places that I mentioned, there's other places as well that are just more favorable for men in America. I'm talking about in America. I'm not talking about overseas. And it's just certain markets that you might be able to do something, but not really. In those places, like some of the worst places you could date, like Chicago, New York, and Detroit. Even though I think New York is probably better. I mean, New York is kind of wild. I've seen some wild, crazy stuff in New York, and I think that it's just certain places it's just better. Overall, it's just a better experience, when it comes to just the whole male and female ratio. Sometimes it's like it's just you in a place where you don't even know that it's not favorable towards you as being a man. Like these are the things I learned a long time ago. Like you would think it's you, and then you go like somewhere else. Like I never forgot, like true story. And I think when I talk about this, like my friend he kind of gets a little salty because I think he really thought that, like, I don't know, like it. I just, when I was younger, I was kind of like, I don't know, I was kind of like not, I was kind of like striking out, right? But then I went to a whole nother part, right, of the state, I was living in at the time, and I went from kind of striking out to like just kind of being the big man on campus type of thing, like where it was just it was a totally opposite experience. I'll just say that because I don't want to brag too much. And it's like that was my experience. And it wasn't, and that's when I found out it was like it was just like, okay, a different environment. It was an environment where I went from an environment where you got to simp out to get one or two women and gotta like do all kinds of crap, go through all these hoops, right? To where you like a kid in a candy store. And only thing I had to do was drive 180 miles, right? South. And it's like, yeah, it's just like that. Like it could be, it's that. And it's like, yeah, dudes don't know that. How many dudes know that, okay, it's certain markets where it's not so much markets, but it's certain locations where it's just not, it could be more favorable for men and it could be more favorable for women. And it kind of has to deal with demographics. It has something to do with demographics. It's more men and women, or type of thing, right? Less women, more men, more competitive. And unfortunately, the sad part about this, and you probably already picked it up. That's why men are in graveyards. Men are in graveyards because, you know, they're in a market where the men are so competitive and they don't even know why they're competitive because it's not that many women that go around, or you know, it just whatever reason, it's just more dudes than men. Like, I mean, more dudes than females. Um, and you know, a lot of times you throw in the ghetto and all of the problems that you got with that, you know, and it just exacerbates the situation. And yeah, the women do behave a lot like men, right? So I mean, it's aggressive, you know. But the thing is that the point is, you know, this is what I know. This is what makes me smart, right? It's one of the reasons why I'm smart. That I know that other men don't know. I mean, not too many men talk about what I talk about, right? And they don't even go into depth what I talk about. And it's only so many men that know that watch my channel or whatever even reach me. So it's not all men know this. You know, it's very I don't even it's a few guys that mention going to different locations and stuff like that. Definitely traveling. I mean, traveling does help. Like as far as uh, tra- traveling overseas does help. That I mean, it really does. Like depending on where you go, instantaneously it changes the whole perspective. Like you go to certain places, I'm not going to mention where. If you go to certain places, you're instantly in a situation where it's just totally different. The women are different, their behaviors are different. It just is what it is. Now, I'm gonna say, like I've said, it's plenty of times. It's just certain places where, even in America, like it's just not. You're more, favorable. It's to your advantage more than others, like or for women, right? Like Atlanta is one of those places for sure. Like certain places is just like it's more basically women than men. And I guess you could, I mean that, you know it's these are the things that I learned a long time ago, like that. I know that's why I don't play the whole simp game like that. I don't go too extreme like that. Sometimes I lose myself, but when I get my bearings, obviously, the thing is that this is a big thing. This is a big reason why, certain places guys be complaining, other places guys ain't not complaining or whatever, and it's like it a lot of it is your actual location. You might be in a place where it's just not favorable for, a lot of cold climates like north in the Midwest, and women don't really like living in the cold like that. They want to be around warm environments. You gotta think animalistically sometimes that it women don't want to be in no cold environment where it's hard to live, like Chicago and Detroit and different cities in the Midwest or whatever. They don't really want to live there. Like a lot of the women that I grew up with, to be honest, the women I grew up with, the women that I went to high school with, they don't live in Illinois anymore. They live most likely somewhere warmer, somewhere below um kind of the Missouri arc where uh I forgot what it's called, but the St. Louis arc, I think it's called. Like that area marks where the Midwest turns into the South. And yeah, it's not a lot of people a lot of people, they move away from home, right? And they move, they move further away from home. But the thing is that, yeah, like, people don't notice, and they don't know why they having issues. Like, yeah, it's where you fucking located. You gotta fucking think about it like this. You gotta either travel on a weekend or whatever you can to different places, or you gotta like kind of just meet chicks from other parts of the country. And I mean, to be honest, fly them in. Like, I mean, that might, some people probably be like, oh, that's sex trafficking. That's not fucking sex trafficking. It's you're meeting someone somewhere else, and then they're fucking traveling to you. Like, or you could travel to them. I don't know. I don't recommend that. I recommend, woman travel to you. Like, it's women in fucking Louisiana. They would love for you to fly them the fuck up out of there. You just gotta be careful and just, you know, don't have no Katrinian situation or the Katrinas. If you ever seen the episode of the Boondocks, you can't have her bring her whole family from Louisiana up to where you are. That's the thing. You just gotta tell them, keep their ass in Louisiana. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing. Because they go, I don't know. It might be some it might be like the Katrinians. If you ever saw that episode of the Boondocks. But yeah, man, it's kind of like that, man. I mean, that's kind of fucked up though, because it wasn't like this when I was younger. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like this. It wasn't that damn difficult. But it was a little difficult, but it's not as difficult as this kind of dating environment is. So the fact that you gotta go through all of those hoops is, a little weird too. But the thing is you you know you just got different places, man. More favorable than others. It could be even in your state. Somewhere drive 50 miles east, west, or south. You know, or north, and you got different demographics. Different people. And there you go. Like, it's just kind of how things are. Like, it's just that simple. Like, in a sense of, if you're in a location where it's a bunch of dudes and hardly any women, it's just gonna be super competitive. And you probably, you gotta understand, women, they know, all right, I got all these dudes hawking me, trying to get with me. you know what I'm saying, you're just another dude that's trying to get with them. They got all these dudes trying to get with them, and then online they got a bunch of more dudes trying to get with them. They spoiled at that point. When you be spoiled, if you had a whole bunch of women in your DMs and you're below average, you're a below average woman with some nice size tits and, kind of decent shaped butt, right? And you got dudes all in your DMs and dudes trying to holler at you offline, online, and you're below average. You're like a 4. And that's just how women have it. Like, that's how it is. And it's like, yeah, like, what I'm saying, you're trying to make sense of all of this, but it's the world we living in now. I mean, when I was coming up, the internet was still blossoming. It was growing, but it wasn't no, like, social media. That word didn't even exist. In 2001, 2002, social media didn't that word didn't even exist yet. So It's it's a different time. It's a lot of things are different. And I mean it's you just kind of have to find a way, find the easy mode. And that's it. Like a lot of stuff is just once you find that easy mode, you figure it out. And that's it. Like you find it's an easy mode to every situation. I'll tell you this. I mean, if you're subconscious about your situation, it is what it is. I mean, you got to try to, deal with your situation the best way you can. But if you got a good financial situation, it shouldn't be no reason that you ain't out in the mix, and trying to meet, vibrant, beautiful, um, basically, you know, um, fertile women. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just shouldn't be no reason, man. If you got everything squared away, right? It shouldn't be any reason whatsoever, right? You don't have any barriers holding you back. It shouldn't be no reason that you should already at least try to file for a passport or have a passport so that it open your options up even more, right? Because the thing is this, right? One of the things I do know about women, if they have animalistic urges and everything too. And I'm gonna get off of here soon. But one of the things about women and their animalistic urges is one of the like ways that women judge you is based off of how desirable you are to other women. And they talk about that. A lot of them do. It's like one of those weird things about, it's kind of like girl math, right? A woman don't want you unless other women want you, right? You probably heard that before, right? So if other women don't want you, that it's certain women, they're not as attracted to you as if you're, other women, they want to see other women being attracted to you and all of that type of stuff, right? Now, the thing is not all women think like this, okay? But the thing is that when you know, kind of got that, you got an experience where you getting off, right? You sexually fulfilled. Women can kind of sense that, and they know you've already probably most likely got a woman already, or you're satisfied. Not all women can sense that, but basically when you coming at women with a certain level of desperation, they can sense that. Like I said, women have intuition. They have a high level of emotional intelligence, so they know you squirming around and you so desperate. They can they understand you're desperate. They might still deal with you or whatever accordingly, but they know that you're desperate. One of the things that you don't understand is you're not the only man in the world. You're not the last man in the world. And while you coming at them desperate, they know men that are not desperate. They have been around men that they were desperate. They were behaving like they were desperate women to get with these men. And that's what you don't really think about. You don't think about the fact that your desperation is other men that they're desperate for. And you don't really think about that. That idea didn't dawn in your head while you're being desperate. Is other men that these women are acting the same way you are, if not more. And that's what kind of what I'm saying you should strive towards. Like you should strive towards being the best man you could possibly be. And once you've achieved that level of kind of just being the best you could be, and you exude that level of success, it's not, you're not really worried about no women, because those women are attracted to that. The women that you need are attracted to that, and it's not some fake stuff. You should be able to know how to vet women. Um it's a it's a big, it's like it's a huge inconvenience, to make all of that money, right? Learn all of what you learn to make all that money, and then through all of that, you just let a broad come in your world and just, you know, take everything that you worked hard for and just mess it up. Like, because you're game goofy, because you didn't want to listen to older dudes or some shit, or your brothers, or you didn't want to listen to any men's advice when it come to women. Okay, well, okay, get your shit took. You know what I'm saying? That's how that, that's the cause and effect of that. Yeah, get your shit took. And it's like, yeah, like when dudes be telling you certain things, and they tell you don't turn a hoe into a housewife and all these different things, you don't want to, you want to dismiss it, and then you find out the hard way. Now you want to crash out. Now you crying. Now you down on your luck. You sad. And it's like, yeah, I mean, the thing is that you didn't respect the game. You didn't respect others. That's kind of what it is. Like, you just didn't respect that shit. Now, it's certain women that you don't have to use all of these things on and all that. They naturally kind of more old fashioned, where they want to, basically take care of everything, and be the best woman they could possibly be with you. Like, yeah, they're probably most likely non-black, but yeah, it's some women like that, in this country, right? But it's very few. It's becoming like almost a very rare thing in the black community for women to be like that, and unfortunately, it is what it is. I don't know how this is going to play out, but yeah, it's it's kind of a big imbalance, right? But I've been saying quite a bit. I'm going to get up off of here. Just hopefully, the things that I've talked about register with you, and you could have a better, more fruitful life.